What's your name and where are you from?
Mary Fadash, and I'm from Black River in the town of Wilson, the Black River area.
What set this up? My understanding is that Kohler was not planning a golf course originally.
They presented what is called a glamping site, which means glamorous camping, where he would have, I believe, permanent buildings in some way that would look like they were camping facilities on the shore of Lake Michigan. And as a result, he did get some permits through. And what they're doing is building on those permits now to see if they can get them extended, like the size of the easement that they had for the tented forest. They want to get a larger area for an easement in the area.
Are they still going to have a glamping site?
No, they abandoned that idea. We think probably because a golf course is much more profitable.
Do you think that they originally had planned, or have you heard anything about them originally planning a golf course and just putting forward this false front?
That's interesting because I have heard residents say that. I have no idea. But they did, smooth over a lot of things with the state, and particularly at Whistling Straits. And we know that Kohler has gone to the governor. And we would like to know when we get to go to the governor. There aren't many people who put in golf courses that have to go and speak to the governor.
So you have a group set up and a website set up to put out information, and
we do. We're trying to inform our board as to their authorities. We get a lot of false statements saying, well, if the DNR says that there are no violations in their conditional use permit, then the town has to accept the project, and this is absolutely not true. The town has the final word as to whether it fits into our comprehensive plan and how it affects the residents of the town environmentally. We're going to have a movie day, which is going to be a series of environmental movies. And one of them, which is particularly relevant, is called You've Been Trumped, which is about the land that Donald Trump bought in Scotland and destroyed the dune system in that area, and how he was going to put people out of their homes who lived on that land for years. And we do find, we certainly think Kohlers have been very helpful in the arts in Wisconsin, but environmentally we're concerned about their ecological consciousness. So this is why we're going to show the movies. What
do you think of the track record of Kohler Company?
Well, I can't say they are listed on they're among the major polluters in the state with their factories. That's record. Right. We do have evidence from a document called the DNR Watch, which was a group of environmental groups that were studying what was happening at Whistling Straits when it was being developed. And the DNR did pass on some things that it probably shouldn't have. And one of the biggest things was that we find really offensive is that a couple of years ago Kohler went to the town of Mosul, which is a very small town, not wealthy, and said that he had a bad year, and he asked for his tax base to be decreased. And it was decreased, I believe, I'm pretty sure, by about $5 million, which then raised the taxes of the local people. So we're not going to hold any bake sales, for the Kohler Company. I'm assuming that during the recession, the town of Mosul residents had a bad year also. So the impact of a golf course goes way beyond what people think it does. From the pollution of the groundwater, some of the people in Mosul had their ponds and wells dry up. Their pressure goes down to zero when Kohler's watering the grounds. And I don't know if most people know, they were talking tonight about perhaps using Lake Michigan water. Yeah. A typical Midwestern golf course uses 30 to 35 million gallons of water. And I can't remember, Claudia, 30 to 35 million gallons of water over what period of time? A year.
And that's a Midwestern golf course.
That's a Midwestern golf course. So,
and then the conditional use permit said 16,000, and I'm going, I
don't think so.
And how are they going to take water out of Lake Michigan?
So they're either going to take it from the aquifer, which can affect our wells, or they're going to take it from Lake Michigan. And the Black River that runs through on the west side of where Kohler wants to put this is already impaired, according to the DNR. Right. So we're going to have fertilizer runoff into that. And they said, oh yes, we don't belong to this Green Association of Golf Courses. They opted out of it. And because they didn't want to put up birdhouses for some reason, that was their reason. I don't know if you heard that. So, but they just say in general, but we're going along with all the environmental regulations.
I'm sure it's not just birdhouses.
No longer buy Kohler products in my home. No longer participate at Destination Kohler. And although I'm only one person, maybe spending $1,000 or $2,000 a year, there might be, thanks to Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, there might be thousands or tens of thousands of people who would feel like I did that they should.
Well, that's how I felt with the tented forest.
Yeah.
But I'm not buying any more.
So it's a way of saying that there's strength in numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are a very respectful,
Yes.
professional, and intelligent group, and we want to do this as above board as we can.
That's good, and I would do it as almost like friendly advice, wishful thinking. You know, I don't want to see it come to that. But are they thinking about that? It could actually negatively impact the Kohler product. There aren't people who are going to buy Kohler because he built another golf course, but there are people who won't buy the Kohler product
Because he built another golf course.
because of what he's doing here, and that could have economic impact on the company, on jobs, on taxes, and everything else. Now, I don't know if that's too much of a stretch.
No, I don't think it is too much of a stretch.
All right, the next order of business is the request for conditional use permit by Michael Ballat, General Manager, Destination Kohler, 444 Highland Drive, Kohler, for approximately 247 acres, tax parcel numbers as shown on the agenda, located in the town of Wilson for consideration to create and operate a golf course. Who's going to start? Michael? I will forewarn you, you want to step off to the side. Step off where? Off to the side someplace so everybody gets a chance to see that screen.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Wait just a second.
We can't see your ear.
You can't hear.
I'll speak as loud. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Blatt. I'm the General Manager for Destination Kohler. We're here tonight to present to you our plans for the golf course here in the town of Wilson. To give you a little bit of background on myself, I've been with the Kohler Company for just over a year, but originally born and raised in Kohler, Wisconsin, and prior to this worked for the PGA of America for just short of 12 years, running and operating a variety of their major golf championships, and now come back to Kohler. I'm joined by myself with a variety of other Kohler Company representatives here. You may be familiar with some of them. Jim Richardson, who oversees our golf group, Steve Westfall, who is our senior staff attorney, Jay Hoekstra, who many of you may know, who's our construction portfolio manager, Jess Barley, who's our senior staff project manager, Jack Woodland, who's our director of landscape, and Mike Lee, who's our manager of golf course maintenance for both Whistling Straits and for Black Wolf Run. So we're here to speak with you tonight about the creation of a public 18-hole championship golf course. And I think it's important to tell you where we think this would fit within the portfolio of Kohler golf courses. And right now, we truly believe that upon maturity of this golf course, that it can be ranked in the top 50 of world golf courses. And to give you some perspective, for those of you who are golfers, the Straits course right now is ranked 48. So we do believe it can be as good or even better than the Straits course once the golf course is mature. But what makes this golf course property unique is the sand base, the pine trees, and lakefront property. And therefore, during the construction of this golf course, we want to make sure that we retain the basic dune structures and the white pine groves while opening corridors to sunlight, water, and certainly vistas of Lake Michigan. So embrace the things that make this property truly unique and what we believe will be a tremendous golf course. Herb Kohler, our chairman of Kohler Company, and Pete Dye, who's a Hall of Fame golf course designer and also designed both Whistling Straits and Black Wolf Run, would be heavily involved and be designing this project. During the construction, certainly there'll be job creation, and then during the operation of the actual golf course, we expect a number of jobs to flow here into the town of Wilson, and also to increase exposure tourism and then the tax base by the sales tax, and then also property taxes once the assessments come in on the golf course. So this would increase the tax base for the town of Wilson, Sheboygan County, and the state of Wisconsin. Before we get into the details of what the actual golf course property is going to look like or the layout, I think it's important to understand the history of the property. It was purchased originally to be a port and canal system by Kohler Company to bring clay and iron ore to the Kohler factory. And then roughly half of the property, well over 200 acres, was donated to the state in 1965 for the creation of what is Kohler Andre State Park today. So that was given by Kohler Company to the state. The other half will be developed, and that's what we're here to speak with you about tonight. About a fifth of the area is covered by red pine that was planted by man, and currently there's an invasive Japanese barberry that during the construction of the golf course will be eliminated. Also during the construction, certainly you need to create fairways. And by creating fairways, you're showing a clear forest edge, which will create a greater diversity of plants, which is also more appealing to wildlife. So how are people going to get to the golf course? How are they going to leave the golf course? The entrance would come from County Trunk V on the west, and then heading east into the property. Instead of via the state park, which was going to be used for those of you that are familiar with the Tented Forest project, there was an easement through the state park for maintenance, workers, and for emergency vehicles as part of that project. Also, the main entrance for the property for the Tented Forest project was through the Timberlake subdivision. Therefore, for this project, we would not be blocking any traffic from the state park or encumbering the Timberlake subdivision. Instead, we'd be coming strictly off of County Trunk V, and that would take care of the emergency vehicles and maintenance guests. Everybody would be using this two-lane road. Also, it's important to note that the access easement that would be required from the state of Wisconsin for 3.8 acres compared to what I mentioned, the easement that was needed for the Tented Forest property, which was approximately 1.9 acres. The proposed structure for the golf course, nothing really unique here that you don't see at most golf courses. However, what will be unique is the canvas and log clubhouse. That will have reception and dining facilities that will be open to the public. And the months of operation would be everything except January, February, March. So open 9 months a year, following similar hours of operation to what Whistling Straits is today. There'd be a tent structure where we have the ability to erect a tent for large groups, for weddings, for a large corporate golf outing, something that the clubhouse couldn't accommodate, and mainly for them to eat in the tent. A caddy and golf cart storage building is planned just to the west of the parking lot of the clubhouse. Again, nothing that's unique to a golf course. The maintenance facility, and when we show on the next slide, you'll see the map for the golf course. That is located to the west of the Black River, and that's part of the 3.8 acre easement that we're requesting and working with the state on. It's going to be, again, west of the Black River and outside of the 100-year flood zone. There would be then 2 rest stations, which would have restrooms and food and beverage, and I'll show that all those structures here too on the map. To orientate yourself right here, this is County Trunk V, and right here you see the proposed entrance. This is just a little bit south of the parking lot that's off of County Trunk V, and those that would enter the golf course would travel this way. Here's the maintenance facility. So maintenance workers would come in and take a sharp right and leave the same way every day that they're going to work. Guests that were heading to the clubhouse and heading to golf will continue along the roadway here with the clubhouse located right here. It says clubhouse and special events. Again, that really is referencing that there would be the ability to put up a tent adjacent or next to the clubhouse for large events that may be happening at the property. Caddy and cart park just to the southwest right here, parking lot for guests, practice range, and then 2 rest stations, which would be strategically located, one on the front 9, one on the back 9, again, just for restrooms and for food and beverage for those golfers that wanted to use such. Regarding water usage, right now we're in the middle of investigating where we're going to get the water, whether it be from Lake Michigan or via a well. And that's something that our group and our engineering teams checking out what options, and then we'll come back to the Planning Commission with what we found in our recommendation. And then lastly, for the neighborhood properties, or neighboring properties, as part of the tented forest proposal, there was an agreement reached between the Timberlake subdivision and Kohler Company. We're prepared to offer a very similar easement to those that live in the Timberlake subdivision. The only main difference in general would be articulating specifically where this easement would be, given that we haven't finalized all the construction plans and such, but we work together to find something that makes sense. So in general, the easement would be identical to the Timberlake agreement that was reached. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and then look forward to working with you as we go forward, follow the proper steps of this project, and then pass the floor back to Chairman Kohler.
Thank you. Anybody got a burning question right away?
I do. I see the tees, the fairways, and the greens, but they aren't connected in the map that we have. I would imagine the trees haven't come down between the tees and the fairways.
Yes, correct. The areas where the fairways are shown, that's more so, normally on a golf map you show the actual fairway, and then in between the tee and the fairway, yes, would be grass, but that would be cleared, yes.
All right.
The entrance, are you creating a new road that goes to the east, or are you using an existing road? There is a...
It would be a new road. Yeah, so the road that the entrance off of B, yes, that'd be a new road.
Could you tell me where that would be near?
I guess the best way to describe it would be, as I looked at it, it's just south of the parking lot that's off of County Trunk B. It's also directly across from, I believe, is Terry and Andre Road. Is that correct? Is that a road? I believe that's...
Okay. Is it along the lake there, or that pond?
Yes, it's as I was driving on the left with Terry Andre Road, on the right, it's roughly directly across from that.
And the parking lot you're referring to, is that the dog park and horse trail parking lot you're referring to?
Yes.
Those were simple. When do you think you're going to have an answer on where that water's coming from?
I'll pass that to Jay Hudson.
I think that's going to take us a couple of months to figure that out. We're just starting the process of taking, I'm sorry, this is going in and out. We're just starting the process of taking a look at the lake as an option for, and I guess what I'm assuming you're referring to is irrigation water for the golf course itself. So we're just beginning to look at the lake for a potential source, and currently with that we'll investigate the aquifer for wells also.
Did everybody in the back hear that answer? Okay. The synopsis is it's probably going to take a couple months before they finally know for sure where it's going to go. They're investigating the possibility of getting it out of Lake Michigan, and if that doesn't work, they're going to have to go to an aquifer down someplace to get the water for the irrigation.
We'll do both concurrently. We'll investigate both concurrently.
Okay, so the concurrent investigation on both lake or aquifer, they're going to run it concurrently just so they can figure out what's going to be the best way to get it done. The easement for Timberlake, I think that's, after what we went through with the tented forest, that's probably a very good move on your part. There's a couple of things I see in the map. Number one, your new road is going to cross Black River. How is it going to cross Black River? Because Black River is a navigable stream, you cannot impair it.
Yes, I'll take that one. We are going to bridge across the river.
I know
that would be
With the clearance enough that somebody can get underneath it with a canoe or kayak or whatever?
Yes, we follow the DNR's pretty strict regulations with respect to crossing navigable waterways. So that would be our tentative plan, to build a bridge there that would satisfy those requirements.
Okay. The body of water, could you put your map of the course back up there, please? This way everybody in the audience can hopefully understand what I'm talking about. In the upper left corner of the golf course, the body of water, the pond, lake, whatever you want to call it, that's coming from where?
The map shows a body of water that would be construed the irrigation pond. So that would be what would be filled with water from either Lake Michigan, I'm sorry about this, Mike, Lake Michigan or a well.
Just hold it right below your chin down here.
So that body of water, the place for that body of water is going to have to be excavated. Is that correct?
Yes, there would probably be a combination, but yes, there's probably some excavation that would occur there.
Okay. And all the proper silting and everything, all silt fencing, because your proximity to Black River and you're in wetlands. I mean, this is rolling because you're in a wetland area near a navigable stream and you're talking about putting a hole, and I have to believe that some people are thinking about that. So, give us some insight.
Yes, we have just begun a comprehensive review of the entire property to identify where wetlands would be located. With respect to the tented forest property, since we were primarily building those tents along the lakeshore, there wasn't the need to go in and do due diligence on the entire property. So we're starting that process now. Okay. So that process will then start to determine any environmental encumbrances and dictate what permitting we would have to do, et cetera. And we just began that last week.
All right. What do you suppose your time frame is going to be with the state and that easement that you're seeking from them?
We just recently began discussions with the state, so I wouldn't want to commit to a timeline, but we're actively discussing with them, and I would think that would take months, as a guess.
The application mentions on page 3 that a small parcel will need to be rezoned. Could you show us where that is? In other words, the application says that the vast majority of the property is zone P1, which is park and recreation, but that a small parcel, apparently in the northwest corner, is currently zoned residential. If you can help us out.
Correct. If you look above the pond, right where that red dot is, that squared off section there is would need to be changed to P1.
In how many acres, Steve?
I believe it's approximately around 10. I don't have the exact in front of me.
While that map is up there, its whole must be the greens for 9 and 18, right there where you've got your arrow from this clubhouse. I can't help but notice that those are getting into the dunes that are along there. Is that correct?
I get on this map, certainly it looks like that. While we haven't gone out and staked anything yet, it's very close to the lakeshore, so I guess I couldn't tell you specifically if it's in the dune or if it's not, but it's close to Lake Michigan.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm suggesting you make sure you know where those 2 greens are going to be, because I don't think damaging the dunes would be in your best interest. All right. All I'm trying to do is get you ready for the public hearing. I'm very good at playing devil's advocate. I think you know that. So I'm just trying to just put it out there. What kind of surface are you planning for the road? Blacktop? Macadam asphalt, something?
Most likely asphalt, yes.
Okay. 2-lane road?
Yes.
Okay. Cart paths? Mulch, gravel, paved?
Yes, cart paths, and they would be paved.
Okay. Have you had any discussion with anybody from first responders on this at all?
We have not yet, no.
Okay. Might be a good idea. Anybody else questions?
Yes. The people on the north, or your north end of, excuse me, the north end of your property, there's a bunch of houses on the back there. There was a concern about a road going through there with a tented forest. What do you plan on doing so those people have a decent backyard or something to look into? Are you going to build anything up, any mounds or any plant trees, or is that just going to be that 2-rail fence that goes across their backyard?
We are planning a fence. As you mentioned, we would not have a road going through or any sort of easement going through the subdivision. As for the mounds, I think that's something that we're still working through exactly as we go through the construction phase. But that's something that we can be prepared to have an answer for, definitely.
I mean, as a golfer, there's some tee-off boxes, and if somebody's having a gigantic party in their backyard and doing a little bit of drinking, it might be a little noisy for somebody that wants to tee off. There won't be anybody holding up their card to say quiet, you know, so I'm just asking what you're doing here.
Understood.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is a golfer out there having a gay old time and hitting one in the backyard. Been the recipient of both of those.
Well, then you got a golf ball. You can start selling them.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions?
Will the parking lot also be asphalt?
Yes.
And in terms of septic, you're not going to connect to city sewer?
Correct, we would not plan to.
Would you have, what type of system would you have?
When we did our initial investigations for tented forest, we were able to facilitate sanitary treatment with on-site systems. So we are making the assumption that we would be able to do the same thing with this development. Obviously, we need to go investigate the areas adjacent to the buildings, and again, tented forest was in a different location, so we'll have to go out and go through that due diligence. But we believe, just on our preliminary investigations that we did, that we'll be able to facilitate with on-site treatment.
That would be the clubhouse and the rest areas?
And the maintenance building.
And the maintenance.
Yes, sir.
Would Kohler Company be willing to work with a third party to build and operate this course in an environmentally responsible manner? I'm talking about the Audubon International Cooperative Sanctuary Program for golf courses. I don't know if you've heard of it, but they'll certify that you're using the right chemicals, fertilizers, things like that.
I'm not familiar with it, but I'm happy to take a look at the information and then pass that along.
Yeah. There's several clubs and golf courses that follow those principles.
We are with the Audubon Sanctuary Program.
And hold it there, hold it down a little.
And in actuality, our courses today, our existing courses, meet all the criteria of that program. We have opted not to certify with them, but we do meet all those criteria. And we would use similar principles.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
I'm sorry, Jack, what name?
I'm Michael Lee, I'm the manager of our program.
Hold it down and away from your mouth.
Is this good? Are we working? I'm Michael Lee, I'm the manager of golf course maintenance. I just want to clarify why we're not a member of the Audubon Cooperative Sanctuary Program. A long time ago, we did consider that. And one of the requirements is you build birdhouses on the golf course. And we choose to put trees in natural shrubs and landscapes that birds are more accustomed to using to build their nests in, and not to put birdhouses on the golf course because they look artificial. So that was actually, as simple as it sounds, one stumbling block to that program. because we just honestly have never seen a bird go to Home Depot and buy some nails and wood and build a house for himself. So we've been very conscious to make sure we allow much of the landscape to be as close to the golf course as possible, so we have plenty of fringe borders for that landscape to enjoy, and plenty of wildlife.
In the tented forest, and this is more a legal question, so lawyer to lawyer, Steve Westfall. In the tented forest, it was very helpful. You had a schedule listing all of the county, state, and federal permits and authorizations that were needed. Maybe it's in here, I didn't see it, but if you could do that sooner rather than later, that helps this plan commission and ultimately the town board understand who all the players are and how all these pieces are put together, because we need to see this on a coherent level, not on a piecemeal level. So, you know what, the exhibit I was talking about in tented forest.
Exactly, and we'd be more than happy to, and June 9th or whatever, we would come again, we'd be, it might not be finalized because it's a moving target, but we'd be happy to.
Even if it's tentative.
Correct.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? No, sir. There is no public input at this meeting on this topic. I'm sorry. The public hearing for this is when all of you will have your chance to be heard. The goal here tonight was to make sure everybody heard the same story and got it the same way. So we didn't play the telephone game where things got changed every time it went from mouth to ear. The lady that came to my house Saturday night is in the audience, and I thanked her for going around and getting the people involved. I said, that's what I want to see. And apparently it worked. So what my final thoughts to you would be, keeping in mind where you're at, what we've been through before on various things, your proximity to the river, the wetlands in there, the habitat in general. If and through all of this process you can find a way to enhance it, it would be very much in your best interest. The quality of Black River and the area around it. If through your planning you can better it, I think that would get you a thumb up. At this point, unless you have anything, we are finished with the proposed golf course in the Black River area.
What do you guys think of the golf course plan?
I wrote a letter to the editor. I'm terribly opposed to it. Yes. Yeah, I'm just absolutely appalled that they would even think of such a thing.
Yeah,
it's
just, we need another beach golf course at Whistling Straits.
I mean, they'd have to bulldoze all these trees.
Yeah, and the wetlands are going to be gone, wiped out.
They're talking about our taxes will go up. We live in the town of Wilson. The dunes will be destroyed. There's plants that are rare plants. They'll be destroyed. You know, just the habitat for the animals will be destroyed. There's some issues with
the river. They're talking about the Black River.
Yeah, they want to build a pond so they would take water from I've got a well. They would take that water, which might be reduce my well water. There was some land that was zoned residential that they have to take